Hello and welcome back to Dream Girl. I'm Sheen, your host, and today I'm super excited to welcome Nelly Attar. So Nelly is a Syrian, Lebanese, Saudi-born. She's an extreme sport athlete, trainer, and entrepreneur. In 2022, she became the first Arab woman to ascend K2. And since then, she's done so many wonderful things that we're going to deep dive into. She's a master pivoter, which we love. Also, going through these numbers is just really intimidating, but she's done like more than 25 peaks. She's dived more than 100 times. She's done 6 marathons, a dozen triathlons, an ultramarathon. I don't even know what that is, but we'll get into that. And she also launched the first ever dance studio in Saudi Arabia called Move. Hello, Nelly. How are you?
Hi, Sheen. I'm so happy to be here. How are you?
Me too. Welcome. I'm good. Thank you. So super excited. Before we dive into anything else, do you like that little pun?
Yes.
Talk to us about your life generally. You know, what was the journey? What were the different pivot points? And then we'll deep dive into each of them.
Wow, that's big. Okay, where would you like for me to start?
So I know that you were also a psychologist at some point, right?
Yes.
So I'm guessing let's start with that. That's what you were formally trained in education.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I did my undergrad and my master's in psychology. My plan was to be a clinical psychologist. So I graduated. I did about 2 years of volunteer work. I worked with refugees. I worked with prisoners in Lebanon. I worked with children that had learning disabilities. And then I moved to Saudi, and I worked as a therapist for patients that had brain injury. That was my first official job. And I loved therapy. I loved psychology. But it's interesting because I didn't feel like it was very fulfilling. At the same time, when I had my full-time job, I started coaching on the side. I started teaching dance fitness classes. And I loved dance, I loved fitness. And at the same time, like in Saudi, there weren't many opportunities for women to be active or train. So I started teaching these classes, and little by little, fitness started to take over my life. And I remember telling myself, I will never do fitness full-time. I love fitness, I'll never do it full-time. In 2017, I launched the first dance studio in Saudi, a very big leap of faith. I continued to work. At the time, I was working actually as a life coach, but I continued to work in that space and work in fitness. And then eventually, I quit my full-time job and focused on sports full-time. So that was a big pivot. And then during that whole journey, we did so much with the community. We offered a lot of dance classes, dance events, hiking events, training sessions. We just tried to make sports accessible and inclusive in every way possible and fun. And through Move, I started to focus on my athletic endeavors.
Right.
So I started to hike more, race more, and as an athlete over the last few years, I've been focusing a lot on climbing. And I guess during the pandemic, there's been a few pivots within the sports scene.
Yeah.
I started to focus more on content creation, more freelance work, more public speaking engagements. And here I am today, thinking of the next pivot.
I love it. It's never enough, right?
No.
But okay, let's go back now to, for me, when I was reading about you, what really stuck out to me was the fact that you opened the first dance studio for women, especially in Saudi. Can you tell us how that was, what was that like?
Well, it started with my dance classes. It started with the dance classes I was teaching at the hospital when I was working at the hospital. And then I started to teach more classes around Saudi, so the parents of my friends. I started to diversify. And I remember just teaching dance classes to a new audience every time made me feel so nervous. Every time I faced a new audience, I'm like, I don't know if they're going to like me. I don't know if I'm going to fail. I don't know what this is going to look like. But I took that step anyways. And so with the dance classes, I started to expand a little more and more and more, got certified to be a personal trainer, delved more into fitness, started to work with the handful of small hidden gyms that existed in Saudi. And then in 2016, I signed with Nike as their first trainer in Saudi. And I just felt this huge responsibility to do more for the community. So at the time, I wanted to offer free dance and fitness classes.
Oh, wow.
But a lot of the gyms were not happy with that. And that's where the idea of opening up my own space came about. So my stepdad had a warehouse and in his office building that he wasn't using. And he was like, Nelly, just use the space. We'll refurbish the place and use it. It was a discussion that I had with my parents for 2-3 days. And I'm like, hello, I'll go for it. We refurbished the place, fixed it up. All we had was like a little speaker, mirror, and an empty space.
That's all you need, really.
I announced it on social media, and from the first class, it was full. And I remember after class, I actually cried because I was like, what am I going to do? I have a full-time job. I'm coaching in different places and gyms. And now I have this new responsibility, but I have to do something about this because I feel this is where I need to focus my energy. So I scheduled a few more classes. For a few weeks, the classes were full. And then there was still no concept, no idea in mind. I started to think of dance because there's nothing in Saudi focused on dance at the time. So I recruited a few of my friends that were in the dance space. I started to look for dance trainers, and it just started to come together. And it was like the system we kind of had was like a barter exchange. We had clients that were helping us put a business together, and they would come to classes for free.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because I didn't have capital. I didn't know what I was really doing.
And you're not charging.
And I wasn't charging. Eventually, I started to charge.
Yeah.
I monetized the space. When we started to work with trainers, and I was at work thinking of names. Shake your jelly with Nelly.
Oh, I love
No, but it's not about me. I move, move. It's all encompassing. Move. And then I also came up with a logo during my lunch break.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and then that's how the whole idea came together, and it was all trial and error. Refining, trying different things, listening to the audience, listening to our clients. Our clients would be in meetings with us. And that's how, like, in a span of a few months, from a warehouse, we turned into Saudi's first dance studio, and we took over the entire office building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did you get any pushback while you were trying to do this?
I got a lot of warnings from friends, from former colleagues, from people in the sports sector, from the governmental aspect, just warning me, like, be careful, because we were public on social media. And at the time, that was completely uncommon.
Right, yeah.
Public social media, displaying women dancing. You didn't even have music being played.
Public music was not allowed,
No,
right?
it was not allowed. But then how are you going to encourage people to move? How are you going to normalize dance? How are you going to show dance to the general population and show it as an inclusive sport? And how are you going to encourage people to move? So, yeah, it was a no-brainer for me. No, I want to show people dancing. And of course, we were very mindful of the society and of the traditions.
Respect the culture, yeah.
Absolutely. And it was fine. Like a couple of years later, we actually started to work with the government, and we were having activations all across the kingdom for dance. Yeah. So this really taught me the importance of taking steps. You may not know how it's going to unfold. You don't know where you're going to go, but just take the step that feels naturally right. Take a risk. Be respectful, of course. Take risks, though. And trust the process. I would have never, ever imagined my younger self dancing on YouTube. I would have never imagined that I would launch the first dance studio in Saudi one day. But yeah, I took that first imperfect step, and that's how it happened.
Right, when you think about it, at a time where public music was illegal, you managed to push the boundaries, and now you made it so accessible to everyone else, right? And even the government is moving. I know they had the whole 2030 vision, and since then they've been working very hard to be more inclusive. So
absolutely
amazing.
We opened at the right time, the right place. A few months later, it was announced that Saudi is women can own gyms.
Yes.
A few months later, it was announced women can drive. So it all kind of fell into place, and it's just amazing. I would have never imagined that it would have been this way. And the team, like the team that came together as well, I would have never thought I would come across so much talent in Saudi. But everything is possible.
Right.
Yeah, if you take that step.
Yeah, and I love that. You've said this many times as well, to take the imperfect step, right? There's no need to wait for everything to be perfect before you launch into anything.
No, sometimes, and I remind myself of this, you're not ready. Just go for it. Your feelings, emotions will catch up. Just go for it. If you know deep down in your heart that you need to take that step, and then you'll be ready. It's like jumping over a crevasse. I'm never ready for that. No. I'm never ready for that. You just have to go for it. And then the anxiety catches up and the emotions. And I'm like, thank God I did it. Fine.
Oh,
It's
wow.
kind of like that. You have
I
to,
like that.
yeah, take that leap of faith.
Wow. Okay. Well, while we're talking about leap of faith, so one thing I mean, everybody knows about your K2 experience, but I would love to hear it from you as well. You know, what pushed you to take on that challenge when I read the statistics yesterday, which was what 1 out of 5 people die sometimes climbing this. So it's a very dangerous project to take on. How did that happen for you?
Well, I've been climbing obviously years before that, and it was many years leading up to K2 of trial and error on mountains. I climbed Everest 3 years before K2, and as I was descending from Everest, the idea of K2 came about. And
before finishing the previous
yeah,
project, the next one starts.
I was on the Hillary step and thinking, like, what's next? Maybe K2 one day. I can't come back down, and my guide was like, don't talk to me about K2 now. Go train. Climb for the next at least 3 to 5 years. K2 is a whole different ball game. So I'm like, okay. And then that was it. During those years, I climbed a lot. I climbed a lot. Like during those years, I climbed in Alaska. I continued to climb. I continued to do sports, but K2 was never really on the forefront of my mind. It actually was on my mind, and it started to come. It started to feel like an idea and a dream almost a year after my dad passed away. It was the most difficult year in my life.
I can imagine.
And so many things had changed in my life. And I just felt lost. I felt lost. I didn't know what to do. I actually kind of moved to Dubai. And I didn't know what to do in Dubai. I closed my business at the time. There were so many things that were changing for me. And I was overwhelmed with grief. And so at that 1 year mark, I was like, I want to do something to honor my dad, something so big. I want to climb through this year. I want this year to be my year of climbing. And I don't know why just K2 came in
back.
mind. Yeah, the most dangerous mountain in the world.
Yeah.
And that day I spoke to my guide, and he was like, okay, maybe you can try K2, but you have to go climb another mountain that's similar to K2, much smaller mountain, but similar to K2, as a trial to see if you're ready for K2. Spoke to my mom, bless her. She gave me her blessings. I don't
Supportive.
think very supportive, but she didn't realize what K2 is about. No, she didn't. She's like, yeah, you did Everest, you can do K2. I'm like, great. Just don't look at Google.
Yeah, it's number 2, right? It's not number 1.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. And then I looked for coaches, and I found my coach like 2 days later, and I feel like it all kind of fell into place, and I'm like, I'm doing it. And then I went to Nepal literally 3 weeks after that decision, cast everything aside. I went to climb, because if I'm going to do K2 in 7 months, I have to make sure I'm able to do K2.
Yeah.
So I went to Amadablam, which is a 6,000 meter peak, but very technical, harder than Everest. Oh my God, like it threw me under the bus. It was a very difficult climb, but I needed that to know what I need to work on for K2.
Of course.
So I come back from Amadablam, and it was like 6 months of sheer focus on K2, like hyper focus on K2. And it helped me so much emotionally, working through grief. It helped me so much. It took me from a very dark place in my life to a much better place as I was working through these emotions and through the pain. And it gave me purpose, it gave me direction. And I didn't know what was going to happen after K2, because obviously after K2, what am I going to do? I'm going to be like faced with that again. It's okay. Trust the process.
Yeah. Just focus on the now.
And just focus on the now. And it unfolded in a way that I would have never imagined.
Wow.
In a way that I would have never imagined. First of all, I faced a lot of issues with sponsorship.
Yes, I've read about this. I wanted to hear you talk about that.
And these mountains are so expensive. And obviously, like, I'm still needing to live. I need to make income.
You just closed your business down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like K2, I was training up to 30 hours a week. So it was like a full-time job. So the only way that I was able to make income at the time is brand partnerships or speaking engagements. And it was very, very hard to find sponsors, either because I was a woman in a male-dominated sport, or because they couldn't fit me in a box. I dance, I climb, I do this, I do that. You're not too professional. I've heard that. Or because, or because I was not from a certain country.
You're not taking the right nationality box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They just couldn't fit me in a box. And yes, I spent months trying to find sponsorship. It boiled down to the last 3 weeks before my climb, and 3 sponsors fell into place, and I got the whole climb
No
fully
way.
sponsored. Yeah.
So this whole time, how were you feeling?
I was almost broke. How was I feeling? Trust the process. Nelly, trust the freaking process.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was stressed. Of course, I went through dips. I doubted the whole process at some point. But I know what I have to do.
You didn't give up.
No, of course. No, I was not going to give up.
Yeah.
And I remember in Ramadan, that was like a month and a half before K2, I had a very big emotional dip because I was thinking, what am I doing? Why am I doing all this? I mean, yes, I want to make history for my country. Yes, I want to honor my father, but there's other ways. Why am I doing this? Why am I in this position financially now? Is it worth it? I started to go through a rabbit hole of stress and negativity, but I'm like, Nelly, you're so close to it now. Physically, I'm ready. And I have to go through this. This is part of the process. I know that I'm going to face so many challenges. I'm going to continue to face challenges, but that's what's going to make me stronger. And that's what's going to make the whole process more meaningful. And truly, I got to that point. I got the best sponsors I would ever dream of. I'm grateful for the sponsors that turned me down because their values did not align with mine. And then I got Batil, Seek Discomfort, Yes Theory, peaceful, amazing brands that only asked of me to stay safe and promote their products when I could. And they trusted that I'll be fine. How did they take a risk? How did they take such a big risk? They trusted that I'd be okay. And not only was I okay, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
My team was okay. We made it to the summit.
You smashed it.
I felt so strong on the climb because of the training. And we made history. I ended up making history for the Arab region. So I'm very proud of that climb.
Oh my God, I love that story. Also, it's just, I really love your attitude towards hardship, where you're like, it's hard. You're also experiencing it emotionally, but you're just going to be like, well, we have to believe that it's going to happen. And as you said, all of the people who said no to you were redirection, right? This was not the right fit. You just had to keep going until you found the right one. So that's super inspiring.
I mean, at that point, I had no other choice. I already paid. I had no other choice. But yeah, of course. Yeah. I stayed optimistic. And I mean, my family was also super stressed. They're like, what are you doing? There's the life risks of doing such a climb, but then financially as well and stability wise. But honestly, like when you trust the process, there's something so amazing that comes back from the universe. When you believe in abundance, it comes. Obviously, you have to work towards it, but it does come.
Yeah.
And so that's what I kept thinking. Don't focus on the scarcity. Don't focus on the negative statistics. If 300 people could do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
If people got sponsored before, and I've been sponsored before, why can't I be sponsored today? I'll find the right sponsors. So that's the mindset I kept leading with. And yeah, I just had to stay anchored.
Amazing. And also, how did you train? Because you were in Saudi, which is completely different climate to K2, I'm guessing, right? So how did you train physically and mentally, I guess? All right, quick break for a word from our sponsor. This episode has been very kindly brought to you by Stake, the real estate app. If you're interested in investing in real estate, but don't have access to huge funds, don't know how to, don't have the mind space to actually do the homework, check out Stake. You can digitally invest in prime rental property from anywhere in the world, starting from a couple thousand dirhams, and it only takes 3 minutes to download the app, sign up, and invest. Stake sources the best properties with the highest investment potential and break them down into smaller fractions, allowing you to invest as much or as little as you like, all from the comfort of your phone. They handle everything else: the paperwork, the property maintenance, and making sure it's always rented. You make money from rental income every month, then there's capital appreciation. Watch your investment grow as the property value appreciates. True passive income. Relevant links and information will be in the description box below. Thank you, Stake.
I trained from Saudi and the UAE, so I'd spend a lot of time going uphill. You have to mimic what you're doing. You have to simulate like the movements. So I'd spend a lot of time going uphill on a Stairmaster or at a staircase. I used to train from Faisaliya, which is one of the highest towers in Saudi, or from here, like some of the highest towers. And yeah, just spent a lot of time going uphill with a backpack. And I would spend a lot of time on the trails, obviously hiking and also khema. I would trail run as well to train my heart, to condition my heart for like hours of being at zone 2, zone 3, zone 4. I would do interval work. I would spend hours doing strength. I would spend about 5 hours in the gym every week doing strength. Although this is an endurance sport, but you have to be strong for long.
Yeah.
And you're on a mountain for at least a month and a half to 2 months. So you have to have good muscle mass in you because you just burn through your muscle mass when you're on the climb. So I would train my fingers, I would train my grip, I would train my neck, I would train my back, my legs.
Every piece of your body.
Everything. There's no room for error up there.
Yeah.
And then I would also train in an ice bath like 2 or 3 times a week to get my nervous system used to the cold. Yeah, just a lot of movement in the week, so much movement.
Wow. And when you got to the top, what was your feeling? What did you feel like once you stepped at the top of K2?
I think one of the best feelings in the world. Euphoria. Disbelief. So many emotions. It still gives me goosebumps, that moment, because I remember when I got to the ridge, I was like, are we here? And then I saw the ridge leading up to the summit. I dropped my bag like I had visualized, and I started crying and crying like I had visualized and promised myself I would. And I cried and cried and cried and cried. For 30 minutes, I couldn't stop crying because that's when I realized what that moment meant. It wasn't just for me. It wasn't for my family only. It was for my country, for Middle Eastern women. I became the first Arab to stand on top of K2, not just the first woman.
Oh, wow. See?
So that moment meant a lot, and just that we're safe up there. I also overlapped with my team because we kind of dispersed and spread throughout the night. We don't all climb together. So for us to all meet at that point was just a sheer coincidence. And we were so lucky to all be so strong and get there on the top of K2 as the first group. So we enjoyed the summit to ourselves for like a good hour before people started to make it up. It was pitch black. We were supposed to arrive at the summit around 6:30, 7 a.m. We got there at 3:30. We moved really fast.
Oh, wow.
So it was really dark, but the weather was amazing. The weather was great. I had the team with me. Really, I couldn't think of a better moment. I didn't have this moment on Everest. Everest was the exact opposite. I was overwhelmed, scared. I wanted to get down. I wasn't enjoying it. There were so many people up there. K2 felt so spiritual. I was thinking of my dad the whole way through. I felt like my dad was with me. I felt his energy throughout the climb. I've never performed like I did that night. And I just felt like God was protecting us. My dad was with me. It was just amazing. And then we hit the target of a fundraiser that I was doing on the climb for the Children's Cancer Center in Lebanon. So it's just euphoria.
That's beautiful.
In a nutshell. But then we have to come back down.
That's what I was going to say, because when you're going up, you have a goal in mind, right? But what's the climb down like? Are you just such in a hurry to just get back now?
Yeah, like, you have that moment. You have that moment of like joy, but then you're like, okay, halfway, I have to come back down now. And coming down is terrifying. Actually, most of the accidents and most people die on these climbs coming down. Yeah. So coming down was pretty scary. Most people were coming up, so we had to keep giving way to people coming up.
Right.
And it took forever to come down. I think it took us even longer to come down because you move on the same line. Like people going up and coming down are moving on the same
both directions.
line.
Okay.
Like same line, you have to clip on the same rope.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't be off the rope because if you slip,
you're done. You're done.
Yeah. You slip off the mountain. And yeah, it was quite scary. I had a panic attack on an ice wall. There's like an ice face that was so hard to climb up and climb down from. And there was a deceased man hanging from a rope there. So just a whole...
You could see it.
Yeah, of course. We're climbing right next to him, Allah yarhamu. So it's very unsettling being in that environment and just being reminded of the risks. And K2 has never sustained that many people going up on the summit in one go. So I just kept thinking of like, if the Sirac collapses, 100 people would die.
Everyone is out.
if anything happens, because the mountain just felt so delicate, it didn't feel sturdy. Every time I take a step and there's someone taking a step behind me, I feel like the ground beneath me is shaking. But alhamdulillah, I honestly don't know how we all managed to get away with that day. And we came back down to Camp 4. That moment, it was just relief. Updated my family, ate something really quick, had water, changed up because I was drenched in sweat. Changed up everything, and we descended back down to Camp 3. We're like, you know what? Let's keep going.
You just want out now.
I want out, exactly. And there's masses coming down.
Yeah.
And with masses coming down above you, there's the risk of rockfall. And it's a very high risk on K2. There's so much rockfall with global warming. And if a rock hits you, you die. So it's just another risk that you have to consider. So we moved all the way back down to Camp 2. We rested, and then the day after we moved down to base camp. And then we still have all the way back down to get back to the street. So it was another 60 kilometers of climbing down and up and down. It was such an interesting descent to then leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
But then once you put foot on the ground.
Surreal.
Right?
And I had French fries and Pepsi
Good.
and burgers. Surreal. Yeah, it was great.
Wow. It must be great to relive that, right? I can see it in your eyes right now when you're talking about it, that you're right back there immediately.
Yeah, I miss it. I really, really miss it. You forget. You know, the funny thing is, you're there and you're like, I'm never going to do this again. It's not worth it. The pain, the suffering.
And then you forget.
The risks. And then you come back down and you forget. I think it's similar to pregnancy, right?
Like childbirth,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, like childbirth, I guess. Because now I miss it, and I miss the feeling, and I miss that sense of accomplishment. And I miss sharing the journey above everything. I miss the shared journey. If everyone that comes on board from day one until I come back from the climb.
Right. So you are also a content creator, which we were discussing earlier. And we were discussing how there's no one really in that space of extreme fitness that is sharing their journey of doing, not just celebrating after they've achieved something. So what's your plan with that? I want to see more of that.
You want to see more content relating to climbing? So my plan is to share more of these experiences, to take people with me on these journeys that they probably wouldn't see or experience otherwise. I want to share more educational content in the realm of fitness and mental health. That's my plan. And yeah, I want to do more training content, just more content in general. It's fun. I love it. I just want to have a better strategy, because now it's more about filming when I get a chance to and putting content together when I get a chance to. But no, I want to have a strategy. I want this to be more of a priority, and I want to give it space and time.
Definitely, because I think you have a very good story to tell. So we should all be part of that journey.
I actually want to share stories of the people that I meet along the way.
Exactly.
They have incredible stories to tell. They amaze me with the things that they do, their resilience, their stories of why they're there and what they do, and the stories of so many athletes. I feel like a lot of athletes in the extreme sports world don't share a lot of content because they're focused doing.
They're too busy doing. Yeah.
So hopefully I get to also navigate in this area and share more stories like what you're doing.
Cute. Imagine if you're doing a podcast in different base camps with the people there.
I would love to.
Right, you should.
I was thinking of that, but I don't know if anyone would be I don't know if anyone would entertain the idea after hours of climbing, and you have to have the right environment, right conditions. It's not snowing.
Yeah.
It's not cloudy. It's not windy. But we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah. But I don't think anyone would expect polished content there, right? So whatever it is. Maybe. It makes it more real.
Yeah, it's true.
That's amazing. Okay. So once you came back, obviously now you're a celebrity. We all know you. It's super cool. But how did you deal with that now that you came back? You are a public personality. People know you. People want to hear from you and stuff. How was that experience?
I guess it's okay.
It's okay.
I love connecting with people.
Good.
I think I'm too extroverted for my own good. So I love it. I love connecting with people. I love sharing the experiences and the stories. I hope that it inspires people to get active. And I love connecting with people from all across the world, all walks of life. So it's actually been really, really nice. I find that it's been an amazing part of the process.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in general, women from this region, people are not really that used to being fit or like having a fitness regime. And I think having someone else tell you that this is what I did and this is how you do it makes it a lot easier. So
I hope so. I mean, I wasn't an extreme sports athlete when I was a kid. I wasn't even an athlete. You know, like honestly, I used to be a dancer or like a wannabe dancer.
yeah.
And I mean, I only started to take sports really seriously in my 20s.
Okay.
And I started climbing when I was 25, so that was like 8 years ago. And in a span of 4 years, I climbed Everest. And I remember when I started climbing, I didn't even really know what Everest like entailed. And when I started to see images of people climbing Everest, I was like, I'll never do that. Who would want to do that? Yeah. Life is funny. Life is funny in that way. So it's, I mean, anyone can start at any age. It's never too late. Never too late, and it's never too early to start either. The guy I actually train with in Saudi, and I do most of my training sessions with, and I travel with him to Abha, south of Saudi, to hike almost every weekend, is 74 years old.
Oh, wow.
And he's one of the fittest people I know. He spends 3-4 hours with me on the trail. He runs with me. He hikes with me. And it's just incredible. I know people, most people I know in their 20s and 30s are not nearly as fit as he is. And he started when he was in his 50s. So it's never too late or never too early to start.
Yeah, there's no right time.
No right time. And try and explore. That's the amazing thing about your body. It adapts. You expose it to a stimulus, it adapts. Now, recently, earlier this year, I had a leg injury. And it was a blessing in disguise. I could have just sat down and sat back and been like, you know what, I'm going to rest. I've done a lot of climbing. But I'm like, no, let me try upper body. So I started doing calisthenics. And I found a new sport that I'm absolutely in love with. I'm in love with calisthenics. And I'm amazed my body can do these things. If I didn't get injured, I wouldn't have known. And if I didn't try exploring, I wouldn't have known. So yeah, like I just advise everyone to try and see what your body can do, because it will amaze you.
Great advice, definitely. And again, we're coming back to you pivoting several times, right? So when it comes to Nelly the entrepreneur, right? So where are you pivoting from? What's the plan as an entrepreneur? Where do you want to go?
I'm still figuring it out. So at the moment, I'm focusing mainly on content creation. And I'm relaunching my coaching services soon again, my virtual coaching services.
Okay.
Which I'm so excited about. And I have a few projects coming up in the mountaineering space. So depending on the time I have, we'll see. I want to relaunch a business in the UAE. I'm just testing the water now, understanding the sports landscape here, and seeing what my time would be like with these projects before I decide on the direction I want to take. That's where I'm at. Exploring and seeing and keeping an open mind.
Yes. And how do you know when it is the right time or this is the right thing to pivot to? What's your assessment process?
The path of least resistance. What's accessible to you now? There's so many things I want to do. I find my mind taking me to a million places literally every day. But I'm like, what is accessible to me now? What can I start with now? What am I connected to today? Who am I connected to? What makes sense? What business idea makes sense? So I think this is what's helping me make more of the decisions I'm making today. And also financially, like what is more rewarding and what do I want to continue learning about? What do I find myself spending more time enjoying, more time learning about, like not just today, in the future. So that is also important. And that's what's helping me at the moment.
Amazing. I think I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. We've talked about the professional side of things and let's go a bit more into the personal side of things. And I think you're such a good example of constant personal growth. You have such a strong growth mindset. You're always trying to improve yourself, learn new things, and try to see where you adapt better, as you said. And I think this is amazing. But what role has your kind of like personal, social side of your life played in all of this? You know, your friendship group, has that evolved, you know, before fame, after fame? What has your experience been with that?
I don't feel like there's fame. I don't think it made a difference. I don't see it as fame. I feel like where I am today is I have a wider network. I have a wider audience of people that I connect to. What's changed is the people I spend more time with are mainly in sports because I get to see them more. We get to share activities together, and I really enjoy it. Like, I enjoy these friendships so much. It's amazing to have a friend that I get to hike with, that I get to train with at a certain level, and we get to have such good conversations. There's something so beautiful about moving with someone and having vulnerable conversations. And I'm also, of course, like, still connected to my childhood friends. I'm still connected to friends I've made along the years. But I feel like life has taken us in different directions. So some of these friends I don't see as much. Friends that I used to see almost every day back in school.
Of course.
You know, now I see maybe once every few months. But that's life, right?
Yeah.
And today, I'd say, like, the most people I see are my family. I prioritize my family above everything else. I make so much time for them, and I choose to live next to them.
Yeah.
I live in the UAE today to be close to my sister, also to be close to my mom who's in Saudi. And yeah, so that's very important for me, to be close to family, and and the friends that I train with. So those are the friends that I mainly see across the week.
Nice. And I think, okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does. But because what I was trying to understand from your point of view is, as you said, you know, life gets in the way and you do lose friends sometimes, right? Yeah. Over time, because life just takes you in different directions. But also sometimes I feel like once you embark on a journey that is very unconventional compared to what other people would do or what they would expect you to do, sometimes even that, unfortunately, you lose people. So that's what I was trying to understand, if that happened to you.
You don't just lose people. You have people that you thought would support you and stand with you and don't
that's
stand
what
with
I
you.
wanted to hear.
And don't support you.
Yeah.
And you know what I've learned? I don't want to have... I don't want to hold any animosity towards them. I don't want to have any bitterness. So instead of having a feud with them or cutting them off completely, I just keep them at arm's length.
Yes.
And I just try to remind myself that this is not because of me. This is probably coming from them and because of them. And this triggers something within them. Really, if it's something I'm doing that has nothing to do with them, why do they feel this way towards me? Why are they being this way towards me? So just to protect my energy, I keep them at arm's length, and that's on me to protect myself. And I learned this the hard way, and I continue to learn this over and over again. It's hard, right? Like, it's hard to adjust friendships. It's hard to adjust boundaries. It's hard to also understand your boundaries sometimes, because they evolve as you evolve and change. But for sure, I'm charged by people, but I'm also drained by people's energy. And yeah, you just have to keep your circle, the people that are close to you. The people that are close to you, I feel like, should uplift you, inspire you, have similar values to you, support you. And if they don't, and if you feel like there's any negative energy, then just keep them at arm's length. And that's what I did. That's what I did on K2. On K2, I kept my circle especially close. I had a lot of my friends try to convince me not to do K2. And not because it's dangerous, just for other reasons.
And we know what those reasons are.
Whatever they are, it's not my problem. I just kept them at arm's length. And those friends came around. After K2 was done, they came around. Yeah, they come back.
They come back.
Yeah, and I just have to remind myself again and again that, yeah, like, it's hard to describe, but I guess who's good for you, you feel it in your gut. Who's good for you and who you have just a good connection with, nurture that relationship. And who doesn't do that for you and who doesn't serve your energy well, just think of how you can protect yourself from that person.
Agreed. I think for me, what I've noticed is that the people who are with me, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, in the trenches, when you're trying to get somewhere, they're very supportive. But once you get there, their attitude change a little bit. It's a bit of like, they didn't expect you to actually do it. And now that you've done it, there's a lot of other feelings that get in the way. And as you said, for me as well, it's like this kind of energy drains me, and then I feel bad because this relationship is not what it should be. Why are they not supporting me? Why are they not celebrating with me? Right? That's the big thing. And then, as you said, they come back afterwards, but it's just that during that moment, it's knowing that maybe they were never really that supportive of you. They never hope that you will get there. And it's identifying that in people I found quite tricky. And I'm just learning, the longest way possible on how to identify the right energy and the wrong energy. And as you said, setting boundaries is really difficult, especially when they are friends that you've had good times with, that, you had a very good relationship with. But now that energy has changed. So how do you change the boundaries? All of this is quite tricky to navigate.
Absolutely. And for sure. And I think because of that, you have to have difficult conversations with friends. As uncomfortable as it is, I don't think anyone likes to have difficult conversations, but there's something so empowering about that. And that's a wonderful way of establishing your boundaries. When you tell them, I feel a certain way, this makes me feel this way. Why? And then maybe the person didn't mean to be this way towards you. Maybe the person didn't see it. Mm-hmm. Maybe the person was projecting something that, triggered them, and they didn't realize they're projecting these things onto you. So if you care about the person, have these conversations. Don't just assume and then distance yourself. Have these conversations. If things don't change, then there's other strategies like distancing yourself. Yeah. Worst cases, cut the person out of your life. But have the conversation. Stand up for yourself. Protect yourself.
Yeah, I think it's that, right? And I'm an empath as well. So I always struggle with this thing of it's not being selfish. It's just self-love, right? You are protecting yourself rather than thinking, no, but this is selfish of me to think that way. But it's that finding that fine balance.
And you're also protecting the relationship.
Exactly.
It's not just about the self, it's you're protecting that bond.
Yeah.
So if you feel like there's something sensitive, there's like a big fat elephant in the room, address it.
Agreed. Okay, now another fun question for you. So you are in your 30s as well.
Yes.
Do you get asked very often why you're not married, or when are you getting married?
I used to when I hit 30s.
Not anymore?
Not anymore.
What?
Yeah.
They gave up on you?
Yeah, no, please don't give up on me. No. Yeah, no, not anymore. Do you mean people in general or my parents?
In general. I'm sure your family is more supportive than that.
Yeah, I think people are curious why I'm not married. I would love to get married.
Same.
And I would love to have a family.
Yes.
I just think that I would rather be single than be with the wrong person. And I want to settle up in my life. I don't want to settle down. So I'm going to wait until I find the person that's right for me at the right time and right place, and it feels right. And then inshallah, I won't be single anymore.
Oh, inshallah, both of us, I hear you. I love that phrase that you said, settle up and not settle down.
Absolutely. I know I'm in my 30s. I know that it might, I've taken a while, and I'm taking a while to find a partnership, a long-term partnership. But what's the rush? I have the rest of my life. And yeah, what's the rush? And I think because like a marriage is such an important decision, such an important part of your life, give it time and don't ever settle down. Don't take away anything from your life. Make sure that the person adds to your life. You will continue to have your life, and then you'll have this added layer of the life that you have together with the person. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Love it.
And thank you for asking, because I don't think anyone has ever asked, are you single? Are you married? What's the status? What's going on?
But I think people probably don't ask because it might be a bit intrusive as well, right? Some people might not want to talk about that aspect of their life. But thank you for being open about it. And why is it taking so long, you think?
So I was a late bloomer. I was a late bloomer. My first relationship was my first boyfriend was when I was 28. Mm-hmm. Throughout my young adulthood, I was very closed off. I didn't want to be in a relationship.
You were too busy.
I was too busy, focused on life and living life, and focused on my education, my career. Of course, I wanted to be with someone, but I didn't realize that like I was actually completely closed off. And over the years, I started to open up. But I feel it's something sacred. It's something so beautiful. And I'm also a bit shy.
No way.
Yes, can be a bit shy. So it does take me a while. It does take me a while to feel comfortable around someone. It does take me a while for me to like someone as well. And also add to that the fact that I started to be open to dating and seeing people in my late 20s. And that's why it's taken me a while, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like, you know, with everything you've achieved and being independent and outgoing, like, so this is one thing I've heard many times, is that this means that your pool has now become quite small in terms of who can be an eligible person for you. So that makes it a little bit difficult. And because we don't necessarily tick the traditional boxes of what a female partner would be like in a marriage, then it makes it a little bit harder for you to be picked out of that small pool. What is your take on that?
I don't want to be picked. I want to pick.
Thank you.
I don't want to be picked.
Thank you. You are doing the picking.
Of course. I want to pick. I mean, maybe they pick me, and then from those that pick me, I pick. But yeah,
you reciprocate.
I want to choose a person. I want the person to choose me.
Exactly.
And it's maybe I'm not your traditional. I won't be your traditional wife, but I don't think my husband would be the traditional husband either.
Exactly.
And you know, we'll overlap somehow.
Yeah, it's just different mindsets, right? So that's not the kind of person you're looking for. There'll be someone else that you're looking for.
Yes.
Yes, for sure. Okay, final question then.
Okay.
What does success mean to you now?
Success? Living my rich life. And living my rich life is not financial. Living my rich life means living with abundance, living happy, living with purpose, serving others, continuing to pivot when I need to pivot.
Love it.
Being financially independent and free to support myself, to support my family, to support my extended family, and to enjoy life, to live life. That's what success means to me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
I want to ask you.
Go for it.
Are you single?
Yes.
How come you're still single?
Same problem as you. I mean, I was in education until I was 28.
Okay.
So I've studied for a very long time, and I was quite closed off as well to the idea. So I've always been too focused on myself, and that was never a priority. And then since after that, I've been moving countries, moved jobs, and had very how do you say it? Unfortunate experiences with the men that I have met, where they didn't just fit the standards, you know, of what you're looking for, and just misalignment in values and things like that. So still looking. I just haven't found anyone.
Keep your energy open.
Yeah. I think that's the whole point of, so I had this conversation recently as well with a friend of mine where she was like, don't think and don't put it out there that they're not good enough men. There are good men. It's just you haven't met them yet. Absolutely.
And I don't think it's not about good enough. It's just you're not compatible.
Exactly.
They're not right for you.
Yes.
But they might be right for someone else.
Agreed.
Yeah, just be open and it will come. Trust that it will come.
Yeah, we trust it will come.
Yeah.
For both of us.
Yeah. Hopefully next time we do an episode together, maybe one day.
We'll be like, remember when we talked about this?
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Anything else you want to ask me?
No, thank you. Do you want to ask me anything else?
Any parting words? Any advice you have for women?
Just move more.
Love it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, well, see you in the next episode.